This PSA was brought to you by the Peter G Show.
You may have second thoughts after the show.
Don't drink the faucet. We're really talented. We should get Oscars.
Just pick out a car, for Christ's sake.
No, my name is Peter. Yeah, I want. Here's
Yeah.
Madam Perry.
I need to get back in the genie bottle.
Louis from Pennsylvania, you're on. He likes it. It's showtime.
Peter G Show, Peter G Show, divorced dad, single dad, divorced dad, single dad, Peter G Show.
That's right. Here we are, Wednesday. And guess what, folks? Gather around, children. Daylight savings time is upon us. And I know there's a lot of happy people in this country. The griping of when we go into the darkness and then when we come out into the light, and it's like just the way it is. But how the hell is everybody? I hope everybody's doing fine. My name is Peter G, and you're watching Life with Peter G, the Peter G Show. And again, I hope everybody's well, because we're all in this together, folks. So just keep that in mind, despite of our bickering. Great show for you tonight, as promised, as always. But I digress. From my birth state of Connecticut, I have a friend of the show. She's been on before, several times actually, right? I think several times. She's got a new book out, and I like it because I can relate to this stuff, because that's how I started out doing this show. I have, from the great state of Connecticut, Miss Laura Wellington, author, blogger. She's going to be on in a few minutes. She's got a new book right here, Doormatmom, No More. Right here. That's right. What does that mean? It means when good parenting, when good parents finally say enough to their ungrateful kids, adult kids, right? I've always said this recently, and I didn't put it's like, let me see, I can't see without my glasses. It's going to be one of those nights, because I'm looking forward to this, because this is tough stuff, but we're not talking current events and politics tonight, so I can lighten up a little bit, because I take that very seriously, but I take this very seriously too. She took it seriously enough to write a book about it, and I can relate, because let's face it, if you're a grown, parent and you've got kids, it can go one of two ways. You've got either the child that gives you no problems whatsoever and you go through life being grateful as hell for it, or you got the monster child that drives you nuts, but you still love your kids no matter what. But they grow up, and they can grow up one of two ways too. They can grow up being grateful and do well through life, or they can be ungrateful and they just kind of hang around and feel like you owe them something. And this is what this book is about, and we're going to talk about it with her. I don't know how she came about writing this book. I got a lot of questions for her though, and I think you're going to enjoy it. But let's go real quick. What we got going on here? Good evening, Peter G. Let's put that one up. Steve B, out the gate. He was waiting in the wings. There we go. Thank you, Steve. I'm glad you got a good seat. Please share. Need people to share. Spread the love. Look, Paul says, hey, Pete. Paul, don't worry about my grass. It got cut today, right after you left. I just know these things. What do we got here? Lonnie, look at these people. Getting in early. That's right. You guys have the premier seating, and I appreciate that. Let's see. And Paul says, I'm Penny's doormat. Well, see, all kinds of people have problems, and that's why we're going to talk about this book tonight. But we're going to get back to that. She'll be up in a few short minutes before you know it. When we get to that, I want to remind everybody, as much as I love and appreciate you watching, I need you to share. Speaking of sharing is caring. Please subscribe. YouTube punishes me because I push the limits on trying to be truthful, which they disagree on a lot of things. But again, everybody's entitled to their own opinions, but they, kind of block me and shadow ban me and all that. I want you to subscribe to my YouTube channel anyway, Peter G Show, official Peter G Show, and the official Facebook Peter G Show. If you want to watch live and comment live like these fine men are doing right now, I don't see any women on yet. You need to be on the official YouTube page of Peter G Show or the official Facebook page or the official LinkedIn page. That's the only way you can watch live and comment. The show then goes on to be uploaded to 11 different platforms, your BitChute, Rumble, the Odyssey, and a couple other pages and things like that. And on demand, it'll also go to the audio podcast. I appreciate you guys who take the time out of your lives to watch. I know it takes a lot of effort to watch a long form show. You have to really want to watch, and I appreciate that. But when you're on the road, I know people that aren't even home from work yet. Right now, it's just a little after 6 p.m. in California. People are still driving, the dreaded drive. Some people commute for hours each day to and from work, which blows my mind, but God bless them. Put an earbud in your ear or just turn on your radio and whatever, Bluetooth it, go to your Google Peter G Show podcast. You can listen to the audio version of any show on demand. There's over 400 shows now, which blows my mind. We're getting ready to hit the official 300th live. When I was doing live, all the other shows were pre-records. But either way, great topics. You can find the other couple of shows that Laura was on. And, every show has a topic. Some are current events. Some, are yesterday's news. But God bless it, they were exciting to do. I'm still excited from those shows. That's the way I roll. Listen. Just do it, all right? I give you all these easy ways to catch the show, but you gotta, just follow, share, subscribe. It's all free. It's free. How much better do you want it than that? Life is short. Enjoy. I try to bring you some things that are worthy of and enlighten some people who are sitting on the fence, although I pay a high price for sharing my form of enlightenment, but I'm okay with that, because I'm confident in what I'm doing is the right thing, including tonight's show when we're just trying to share. When I started this show, it was all about surviving divorce and single parenting as a man, but it was for men and women. A lot of people thought it was a guy's show. It wasn't. It was just trying to be a good parent when you're going through hell, because the kids get the repercussions of it. And then it progressed, and here we are years down the road. But again, everything starts with a reason. And when she came, this was by a fluke. I happened to see the book, and I didn't know it was her that she wrote the book. And I said, okay, I'm calling her. So we're going to talk more about parenting. And this is adult parenting. Parenting, when your kids are grown, it's like blows my mind. But it happens, and I see it all the time. And we'll talk about that tonight. But that's what we're going to be doing tonight. And I don't really have a whole lot of... No, I could talk. No, I'm gonna leave current events and politics out of the show tonight. Not one single pipe. But catch me next week, because I'll be raring to go. Every day is. I should have a daily show, because every day I'm chomping at the bit, and I have to wait until Wednesday to get to it, and hoping it's still relevant. But then again, everything's relevant, because life is so important right now. It really is. But either way, all good, all good, all good. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to bring Laura on in just a short moment, but first we need to hear from my good friends over at Clean Star Products with their money-saving fuel additive DX1 driver, because let's face it, folks, it makes sense to save money. We'll be right back. Don't go nowhere.
Let us help you with the high price of fuel. Hello, I'm Ty Thompson at CleanStarProducts.com. We can optimize your engine, saving you money and gas. Here's how. Our program works the same with gasoline and diesel engines. Whether you're using a car pack or SUV pack, the instructions are the same. Add 1 bottle to your engine oil, and each time you change your oil, add 1 bottle to the fuel tank each and every fuel fill-up. It's that easy. You get 10% fuel economy on average, lower emissions, and increased horsepower. DX1 sells for $2 an ounce, so for just a few dollars a fuel tank, you can optimize your engine, saving you money and gas. Come on, give it a try. It's the finest green grade oil in the world from a California environmental company. You're going to feel it when you drive. Order online today. We'll get it out right away. CleanStarProducts.com/shop.
That's right, Clean Star Products. I got 2 words for you. It works. I use it myself. Would have never believed it. You know, you see a lot of things, a lot of products on the shelves. You go, it works. They're proud of what they do, and they're willing to back it up. It's real simple. This little bitty bottle right here. Who would think, right? Look at it, the size of my hand. Either I got really big hands or it's a little bitty bottle, or both. This little bitty bottle is for sedans, 4-door car. You pour this in a clean oil change. Change your oil when you're changing it, and you should change your oil. I hope you change your oil if you want your car to keep running. You pour this in the crankcase of the oil. Lasts the whole oil change. That's what? At least 5,000 miles? 10 if you have a Mercedes. Every time you fill up your tank, you put one of these little bottles in the tank when you do a full tank of gas. I noticed the difference within about 3 or 4 tankfuls. It works. If you got a bigger truck or SUV or something like that here, it's a little bit bigger of a bottle. Not very much bigger, but it's bigger. So what? It's a V8 engine. I have a V8 engine. It needs the bigger bottle. Works. But don't believe me. I know you're going to have questions because, you know, it's like, why believe Peter? So here's what I want you to do. Go to their website, www.cleanstarproducts.com. There's a phone number there. I have it all spelled out in front of you, too. You can easily do that. Call them. They want to talk to you. They know that you have questions. They'll answer all your questions personally because, again, they have a product that works and they believe in their product. But here's the kicker. Because you call them at that number, mention that you saw it on the Peter G Show. Should you decide to order, they are going to send you 5 bottles for the price of 4. That's right, 5 for the price of 4, and that's the perfect starter kit, especially for higher mileage cars. You're really going to notice the difference. On top of any car, it taking care and keeping your car running better. I noticed it on my poor old F-150 Super Crew that's got 216,000 miles on it. It's a great truck. I've had it since it was brand new. I know how it breathes. But as it gets older, as we all do, I could feel it slowing down. I poured this stuff in it, and I can notice the difference. My daughter noticed the difference. She borrows it to go pick up hay for her horse. Hey! She noticed the difference. She said, I get it, because we call the truck Big Red, because it's red and it's big. and we've been calling that since she was born. And she says, Big Red, just I can feel the difference. And that's the truth. But again, 5 bottles at the price of 4. You mentioned that you saw it on the Peter G Show. Find out for yourself, because not only is it going to get you up to 10% better fuel mileage, which it did, it gives the horsepower back, which it did, and it's just giving more lubricity to your engine. It's just like taking care of your body. Good food, good body. Cars are expensive. Do yourself a favor. Invest a little bit. Keep your car, because cars are not investments. They're tools. And you lose money, and I'm over it. Fancy schmancy cars, I don't care. I'll ride a bicycle from now on. I can care less. It's like, hey, there goes Peter G. Right there. Riding down the street. Hey, I'll be riding. Hey. But I do have cars. And I do use this stuff, and it does work. So go to www.cleanstarproducts. Call that number right there at the bottom of the screen. Talk to them. Mention that you saw it on the Peter G Show. And that's it. Pretty simple, eh? All right. Let's This is the part that I know Paul's been waiting for. If he's still here, let's take a quick sip, real quick, before we bring Laura onto the show. I know she's probably chomping on the bit if she hasn't left the show by now. Here's to everybody, daylight savings time, and I hope everybody's well, and God bless all of you. Oh, smooth. Okay. Much better. All right. So as promised, waiting in the wings, blogger and author of this here book, she has a few more also that we've done one at least in the past, and I know for sure, but she's got this new book called Doormatmom, No More. And we're going to be talking to her right now. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Northeast, Connecticut, my friend of the show, Miss Laura Wellington. Hi. Thank you for not turning the show off and running away.
Well, when you said we weren't going to talk politics, I'm like, I'm out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know you. I know
We
you
are
better.
anti politics. We
Yeah.
are. We
Yeah.
are.
But again, it's a steep price to pay when I started going down that road. But I just sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Absolutely.
Anyway, how are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. Been very busy, obviously.
You're always, you always tell me you're busy, which I believe it. I mean, life is hard.
Yeah, but this whole doormat thing has been explosive. So, that has really kept me busy.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's again, busy is good. I mean, there's good busy and bad busy. I mean, treading water, I'm treading water, but I'm still good busy. But, and then there's that next level to where like, you just walking with a good stride and, things are just coming into place and things like that. But again, I thank you for coming on. You're always you're one of those kind of people, because I get all kinds of people that I do on the show and I love them all, but they're like family. And it's like, you got the ones, cousin that, you call them and it takes them 3 months to get back to you or this and that. But when I call you, it's pretty on the spot and you're real quick. I never have a lag time with you, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, you know what I mean. I mean, sometimes because life is busy and it's like, let's go.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's the old saying, right? You give a busy person something to do, they'll get it done. That's sort of how I work. And you know what? When you're being invited on a show, I think it's just respectful to just, not
you would think, but some people, I mean, I've had people just, not a lot, thank God, but I mean, and I get it. I mean, the bigger the show, maybe the more the desire and this and that, but some people have just dump me right before the show's to go, and it's like something came up. I can't do it. It's like, really? I mean, things happen, but I would never personally do that.
I know. I've never had that happen to me on my podcast either. So I don't know. That's bad form. Well, you don't want them on your show then. Honestly, you don't want them on your show.
I get, things happen. Hang on one second. I'm getting a message here. Getting a message cannot be played in the background. How to switch to foreground. Steve B, I don't know what you're talking about, brother, but if you're on YouTube is working because my YouTube monitor is on. And see, I did a show a couple of weeks ago about men's health and depression, and I worded it a little bit edgy, and they took me down while I was live because they didn't know where I was going to go with it. Yeah, I forgot. I haven't done that in a long time, and I'm used to getting taken down, but not live. Usually the show airs, and then they go through it with their bots, and then they pull it down, within 24 hours. But they took me down 18 minutes into the show because I was talking about, possible stuff and depression and things like that.
That was a good show, though, because that's a big topic. That's a horrible topic.
It is a big topic, but when you're live, they don't know if somebody's going to do something live, so they jumped the gun. I appealed it and they put it back up, but they killed my show at 18 minutes. Thank God I had the show recorded and we uploaded it afterward, but I lost a lot of live people, Anyway, let's get back to you. You have come on my show several times through the years. I think since maybe 2019 or 2020, something like that.
Yeah.
And your first book that I did for you was Be Careful What You Wish For, correct?
Yeah.
And that book was about you losing your husband to cancer?
Yeah. So that was, it was a story based off of that. It was a fictional piece of work, but I loosely based it off my real life. So,
okay.
I mean, all art comes from somewhere, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything.
So we did that. And then, what was the next one?
You have one more that I missed.
I'm trying to think of which one was. I'm looking behind me. No, Be Careful What I Wish For was the last book that I did. There were a few prior, but then, and now obviously Doormat Mom. So,
okay.
So,
but
I think we talked a couple of times about when I was writing for the Western Journal.
Did, which
because I was on drphil. I'm going back on the show, by the way.
I hate you.
But I'm sorry.
Actually, Actually, I don't want to be on Dr. Phil. I want to be on his network. You know what I mean? But
I like his network. I think he's doing something phenomenal over there. And because he's a free bird right now, and so I think he's really doing what he wants to do, and he's a real patriot, Dr. Phil. So he's really using his network to add his voice to to right the country. So
that's the thing. I thought he was under Oprah's wing, and I liked him, but I figured, okay, but I gave him credit when he left Hollywood and started this whole thing on his own. I mean, he's got a ton of money, so he can, but still, he didn't have to. He could have just hung out with them.
And there's a difference, though, between making money and having a show versus making money and having to support a whole network. So he took you have to, give it to him. He might have a ton of money, but it's all relative because, he owns a network now and he's keeping that afloat. But I think what I see with him is, in doing what he's doing, he really does feel like he's helping and contributing. And so I think this is as much a business venture, but it's also a real passion project for him. From what I see.
I give him credit because I thought he was one of the, because Oprah brought him in and got him to really where he is today, I think, unless I'm mistaken. But, so I just thought that, they're birds of a feather, but he broke away and came on real strong. So I really, I support that and I pay a lot of attention. So good for you. But you've been on Dr. Phil once. And what did you go on for the first show with him for?
I was writing for the Western Journal, and I'd written an article about the possibility of a civil war. And so one of his producers read the article and invited me on to talk about it within a setting of other people who, some were saying that one guy wanted Texas to cede, another wanted New Hampshire to cede. They were just like a push me, pull me of will the nation go into a civil war or not, based on what the parameters. I was the expert on the show, right? So based on the parameters that the CIA uses to gauge whether or not other countries will go into a civil war. We turned those around onto our own country, and based on that, the answer was yes. And it's interesting because there's just another podcast, and now they asked me like, do you see something similar still? And I think it's a little bit different now because had Biden or Harris been we're not supposed to talk politics.
I know. I'm thinking the same thing. I don't. It's kind of hard.
I thought myself. Wait, am I supposed to be the one who polices?
I'm thinking, but I'm going. No, I'm going. You go, girl. You go.
Okay, I'm not going to finish that sentence. I'm not.
Okay. But here's the thing. Okay, because that's another show. I'd love to have you back on any other show, and we can definitely talk about that stuff. But I do want to talk about your book. But the thing was, right, in fact, maybe it was this morning that I read that you are no longer are you no longer writing for them?
No, I'm no longer writing for them. After the election, I had really committed in my heart to write for them throughout the entire election and everything leading up and whatnot, because I felt like that was my patriotic duty, right? And then what ended up happening is I started this venture. It just started taking too much time. I couldn't do both. And I said, you made a commitment to do it through the election season. Obviously, I'm a Trump supporter. So, Trump was elected. I'm happy about that. I decided to then opt out, let people who want to make that their mainstay, let them do that. Let me do this, because to me, this is just something that's just so underserved and such an epidemic. Let me fight this fight. And so that's what I decided to do. Okay.
So then you started on this book. You wrote this book. How long did it take you to write this book?
That book took me about 4 months. It was quick. It's one of those books that just, unrolls out of you and lands on the page. And so, yeah, but I mean, this was an unexpected thing for me. This wasn't something I had planned. I didn't sit down and say, hey, I'm going to write a book about this. This came from a very personal place. And because, you know, I'm a mom. I have 5 kids. 4 of them are all grown up. Some of them are married, some are not. And, but we're a very close family. You know, I was widowed very young. So I raised my children by myself, and we had, great relationships. I have great relationships with my children. But then I had an unexpected situation where one of my adult children, out of nowhere, and people are going to say, how is that possible? And I'm telling you, and without going into every detail in the book, out of nowhere decided that I would not be allowed to attend her wedding. And she was getting married in Australia. She had been traveling around the world. She met a gentleman. Within 5 months, they decided they were going to get married. She had asked me they were going to get married in Australia. She had asked me to host a celebration here for the family and friends that wouldn't be able to attend the Australian wedding. I said I would. She asked me to attend the dress fittings with her virtually because she was getting dress fitted in Vietnam. I did that. There was no indication on my grandmother's grave. There was no indication that something like this would happen. And then out of the blue, she started hemming and hawing, with regards to whether or not I would be invited to the wedding. And this was after they had asked me for my blessing, and I had my first real conversation ever with her future fiance. Gave him my blessing and my late husband's blessing, only to within a week after that be told that, and I had said to him that I would, I look forward to attending the wedding in Australia. He went back to her, told her that something clicked in her. Within a week, I was told by her that I wasn't going to be attending. But then after that, with not even a week after that, she came to me and she wanted me to help her do her paperwork and give her some documents that she needed in order to get married in Australia in a wedding that I wasn't invited to. So I was so hurt. So just hurt is not even the word, Peter. I was so devastated. And then on top of it, to come back and, put your hand out again and say, and now can you give me more? And I was like, absolutely not. So I decided that moment that I needed a break from the crazy. And that was that. So I stopped. I decided I was going to take some time and just cut communication because I now needed to get myself together and heal a bit. And so what ended up happening, and if you read the story, you'll get the ins and outs of everything. But she ended up cutting out her entire family, all the brothers and sisters, everything. So it ultimately ended up not just being me. She aggressively went down the line. So no one attended the wedding and no one was invited. But so in going through this, I decided to reach out. I just started going on TikTok, and I wanted to find people that might be going through this, that might have a story like this, because it was so absurd to me that I was like, there's got to be other people. This cannot just be me, And so I started putting videos out there, and I am telling you, Peter, the flood of stories, the flood of people saying that this has happened to them. This has happened to them in some sort of way. The story has happened to them in a very similar way. It just was unbelievable. The amount of people, parents that are out there that are heartbroken, that were good parents, that were really good parents. We're not talking about abusive parents. We're not talking about neglectful parents. We're not talking about parents that truly, truly were not good parents that just say they were. We're talking about normal parents who did everything that they possibly could, loved their child, did as much as they could possibly do for their child, only to have the child literally make the turn and it just create a situation which ends up in estrangement. There are right now in our nation, there are 27% of all families are dealing with estrangement. All right. 5% of that number are parents who decided to go estranged from their children. The rest, the kids are going estranged. And there's so many reasons for that. Not to bring politics again, but this is part of it. There is an element of wokeness in this that is perpetuating. There are similarities in a lot of these stories that point in certain directions. And so what happened was, I started putting out these videos, and parents were trying to communicate with each other, and I was going viral. Not only was I going viral because parents, I finally opened the door to what parents were experiencing, but they were laid in silence because there's such shame. The society has made this situation where, now you're living in estrangement. It's always the parent's fault. It's never because you gave birth. It's always the parent's fault. But you're talking about an adult child, right? You're talking about an adult, two adults. You're not talking about a child and an adult. You're talking about an adult child who all of a sudden makes a switch, and they're allowed to put boundaries on you, but you're not allowed to have boundaries on them. You are always at fault. They're never at fault. There's no accountability for them. There's all accountability for you. You ruined their life back then, so you are at fault for every bad decision that they make going forward. It's insane. And, their feelings are hurt. You should have to apologize whether or not you agree that, what they're saying what you did wrong was actually, wrong. You have to agree all the time. Or you risk not having their relationship. And it's become almost like a noose around parents' necks. It really has. So when I opened up the door of this conversation and the parents started speaking out saying, thank God, I thought I was alone. I thought I was alone. I thought I was alone. Then I call them ungrateful adult children and adult kids started flocking in too. So it was like a push me, pull me, where there was like brawls going on and on TikTok. But what I noticed among the parents is they really needed a place to talk about their issues, feel safe, feel supported. And they couldn't do it on TikTok because, you have about like a couple of characters and then you have to do, enter again and start the next paragraph. And then I decided to create this Facebook group. And so I created this Facebook group, that Doormat Mom No More, which is, obviously on TikTok, I'm Doormat Mom. The book is Doormat Mom No More. And then when good parents finally say enough to their ungrateful adult kids, and I tell my story in there fully, and then I talk about a lot of what I have experienced, myself, but also all these other parents have experienced, and I talk about that in the book. And it's really a community book. Like, hey, you know what? The community is here. And if we don't do something, it's just going larger. I launched the Facebook group. It starts going wild, right? And I'm not only getting parents from the US. What I didn't realize is that this is also an issue in other countries. So this has become an issue. people from the UK, people from Canada, people from Australia, people from Germany, people from, I mean, all these different countries are all now in this Facebook group. And it was so funny because when that started happening, all of a sudden, first like from the UK, wait, it's happening here. Wait, it's happening here. Wait, it's happening here too. I'm like, oh, this is the quietest epidemic I've ever heard of in my life. And so this started growing. I was getting like 50 new people a night. I had to bring on another administrator just to vet, because what was happening too is these people on TikTok were so raging. They went to the book. They tried to kill the book with reviews. It's like unbelievable. They even admit not reading the book. They admit not reading the book in the comments of the book. They're reading the book. Then they go to the Facebook group and they pretend to be parents, and they're trying to infiltrate the Facebook group and then go back and share the content on TikTok just to make like fun of these people that were hurting. They're hurting. These men and women, these parents are hurting. So we had to start really vetting very hard. So I mean, we have more barriers of entry right now than you.
Let me ask you a question, because I want to back it up a little bit more. How long ago did this happen to you with your daughter?
This happened to me, I think it was August. August.
Oh, wow. You work fast.
Yeah. Because you know what? It's not even me work fast. It was just a progression of, I didn't expect to even like launch a Facebook group, Peter. It was just more of this happened to me. I wanted to see if I could find people, because I was in pain, right? So, I mean, this is not something
no, it hurt.
normal. So, especially after raising her as, a widow, and all that I know I did to just keep her and her brothers and sisters together. But then the Facebook group was obvious. So I had to put it out there, because then I started like feeling a responsibility to all these other parents who I had opened the door for them. And now I don't want to shut it on them again. So like, let's go. So then other creators on TikTok who have been through something like this started feeling more comfortable sharing. So then you started seeing other creators coming out and talking about the issue in their own way. So what ended up happening was, with the Facebook group going and whatnot, well, then, it ended up that I started a podcast, because now these were even larger conversations that I was, that needed to be had with not only other estranged parents or estranged creators from TikTok, but other people who have experienced it. I had one, Peter, even too, like with some, and this is part of the issue. I even had a AMA accredited therapist on TikTok create a video saying that he looked like my age. So how he even got like, but this is how they are. They'll believe anything if they want to believe it. He said he was my son, and this is why he had gone estranged from me. There were people, that's an AMA accredited, those are the people that are treating our kids, right? And that's one part of the problem, because there are some really great therapists out there. There's no doubt about it. There's some great therapists that are some great mental health professionals. And then there are the rest of them, which are really, really bought into this narrative of, and they push the narrative that is so divisive to families. And to me, it's a means of society taking the head seat at the family table and kicking mom and dad out, and everything that's foundationally good for children, and like plying these kids with candy and saying, come on, you know what, you're right, this is the way it is, and keep mom and dad away because they're the bad guys, and we know what's best for you. And so, and this is what's happening, and it is just shredding families, shredding.
I get that, and there's been so much of it these past few years with all the DEI and trans and like convincing. They're just trying to take with the schools. We know that they were holding things, but the thing is, I mentioned earlier before you came on that I saw that this book came out, and I didn't know that it was you that wrote it. Okay, on some posts or things like that. And the first thing that came to mind to me when I saw this book was it really wasn't exactly like your story, but it was the fact that I know so many people that have grown adult children that feel entitlement and do absolutely nothing, and then yelling at the parents like it's all your fault. It's like, I didn't ask to be born, and I mean, just really pathetic stuff. And I'm going, well, we know as parents that we want to raise our kids, and you'd give your children the world if you could, I mean, but at the same time, doing that sometimes works against you because you don't let them grow up responsibly. So It's this catch-22 that you don't really realize. I mean, I've got some friends that, as children, it's like, all you want to do is make them happy, fun. But then all of a sudden they grow up and you're still in that, like do everything you want to do, and then they start changing and like, no, I don't want to do that anymore, and it's like, what do you mean? And what do you do? And then they completely change because they're growing up, and then you're dumbfounded, like, what did I do wrong? But you gave too much, and now they're like looking at you, I need more, just keep giving me.
Well, I think too, I think there's some truth to that. But I also think that there are many kids that grow up and you give them the same thing. Like the old joke is you can raise 4 kids in the same household and each of them have 4 different stories of what type of parent you are, right? So some of them will come out and you can keep giving them, and they'll come out and they'll be like, they'll be the grateful, and they'll continue to be grateful because they'll see everything that goes behind. Then you get, and I truly believe this, there is a group of kids out there that's more susceptible to all of a sudden what's being taught in the schools, more susceptible to that woke narrative that then becomes, it's like a clashing, it's like a perfect storm. You've got a giving parent, and then you've got that narrative that says, well, yeah, but they owe you, and you owe nothing to them, by the way, but they owe you because you were born and you didn't ask to be born. So they owe you. But yet, you owe nothing to them. You don't have to visit them if you don't want to. You don't have to listen to them. You don't have to put up with them if you don't want to. If it doesn't feel right to you, it isn't right. It doesn't matter how it feels to them. I mean, you should see the comments that I see on these videos. They're so entitled. And it is so one-sided. And, I mean, I don't like to throw around terms, easily, but narcissism, we have narcissism running rampant in our society. And this is another outshoot because a lot of these kids that are becoming these particular adult kids have that narcissistic personality. And it's all about them. Their feelings are the only thing that matters in the room. And they've been taught that that's right. And then on top of it, everything is easy. So anything that's hard, even down to communication to keep the most important relationship in their lives, right? A loving relationship, a bond that you can't replace. You can't replace a bond with a parent, right? You can't. That's an irreplaceable, because for the sheer fact that the child comes through you, right? For the sheer fact that it is made of you, whether you can't replace that, right? There's no other relationship like that on the planet, right? So, but they would rather make sure that they feel happy all the time. And they feel that, then actually keep the relationships that are the formational ones. They are the foundational ones. And they really feel that way. It is mind-blowing, and they'll support themselves. That will be the hill they all die on together, because they really truly do believe that.
You're going to get a lot of parents. I blame a lot of parents because, again, you love them, but then you always give in. They give in all the time, and then they get older and they just keep on, and they don't know how to say no. We grew up in a generation, we're relatively close in age, that my parents went through World War I as children, and then we're in World War II as older children, and they knew what hard times were. So then we get these generations now. It's been good and life has been easy, so we didn't raise hard children, because who wants to go through that? But in return, we raised weak children.
Well, I think that there's definitely many of them that are weak for sure.
Yeah, not all, because I'm knock on wood. I don't know.
No. I think because there's some great kids out there. But you know what, Peter? Here's the thing. There are complaints about the boomer parents too, right? We had boomer parents, yeah. Our kids didn't care. I mean, our parents didn't care whether or not our feelings were hurt. It didn't matter to them, right?
Oh, yeah. I got my ass beat. Yeah,
right. So it doesn't matter. They just, they're just surviving, and they're providing, and they don't care, and they get criticized for not being responsible enough to care, right? So then then you get the Gen Xers, right? And the Gen Xers are like products of that, right? So they can like survive it, with a toothpick and out in the field, and they'll be fine, right? But then then you get criticized as a Gen Xer for caring about the feelings of your kids, or doing the best you can, and so there's never going to be one generation of parents that gets it fully right. They just won't, because there's always going to be the next complaint, and parents are people. But the thing is, what we've lost is the understanding that, there is a good enough. There is a good enough in parenting. There isn't a perfect, but they've now made perfect as the standard, right? They have turned perfect. That's the only line. If you don't meet perfect, there is not a good enough, because a parent could never do good enough, because the person who interprets good enough is the child. Who said that? Who made that right? Who actually ingrained that in stone? Because again, that doesn't mean that because the kid didn't get something on a particular day and now they're taking that with them for life, that the parent didn't do good enough. You know what I'm saying? I mean, all of a sudden it's always what the child has defined, which is the right thing. That's not right. I mean, someone else was there too, and they were the adult in the room. And so, it's I always say, it's just like, there's not two stories. There's always one story with different experiences in it, right? And so just because one person has a particular experience, that doesn't mean that's truth. Yeah. So you have to accept and at least look at both experiences, right? But these adult kids I say there's only one experience, and either you agree with my experience or I don't want you in my life. And on top of it, I'm taking your grandkids with me, so now you don't have a relationship with them. And that is a huge issue. And it hurts it hurts the kids, and it hurts the grandparents.
The mere fact that they can even say that and mean it blows my mind. Because, it makes you wonder, sometimes it's like, well, what kind of relationship did you have? But it happens. And it's like, again, you're saying nothing is perfect. There's no such thing, because every situation, you don't know who's struggling. You do the best you can. Now, it's one thing if you're abusive, I've had, completely different ball game. But most relationships with children, I mean, you're bringing them up, you're doing everybody struggles. Not everybody's got it, no problem to do that. And you do the best you can. My daughter confessed to me not too long ago, because I hardly ever have to scold her. She's 19 now. But I gave her a little bit of rope, and she kind of messed up a little bit on something when I was away. And it wasn't bad, but it was just the fact that, she didn't tell me exactly what was going on. And I get it. Part of growing up.
Right.
And I always said that I never scold her enough, and I'm afraid she won't be able to handle it when the time comes. You know what I mean? It's like screwing up has its advantages too, if you learn from it.
Yeah.
And she told me, she said, when I was divorcing and she was very young, there was times when my ex would say she doesn't want to go with you. Why don't you let her stay? And the fact was, because I went through so much hell, and I had court orders of when I should have had her, and I stuck to those rules.
Right.
And my daughter said there was times when I really didn't want to go with you, and I get that, because when you were a kid, she was doing this or doing that. I said, but somebody's got to be the parent. It wasn't killing you. You didn't die from it, But I felt very, very bad from it. But you can't let the child rule the roost, so to speak.
No, you can't. But when you're talking, and you can never let a child rule the roost, right? But then now you have adult children that are living their lives, and they're saying, they're speaking their truth, and their truth can be really stunning at times when you've been a good parent. And the stories I've heard are really just crushing. The other side of it too is, someone had explained that the children that are actually abused, right? There's like two different types of kids right now out there in this category. They're the kids that are really abused, have been neglected, and have every right to be angry, and have every right to have a relationship, have whatever relationship they decide they need to have with their parents to protect themselves. They have that right to that decision out of self-protection and whatnot. Those are the really abused kids. I feel bad for them. I'd stand up for them first in a heartbeat, and I know you would too. But then you have the kids that are putting themselves in that category, right? And falsely. So they're actually delegitimizing the other kids, what the hell these other kids went through. These kids don't know that hell. They don't know what that is, right? But yet they identify as if they do. Well, that doesn't mean that you do. It is crazy. There's like that one girl, she had put a video together. She had a 9-month-old baby. She was like in tears. She was screaming how much she hated being a mother. And she said, this blew my mind. She said she has 17 and a half more, years of this torture. She's so sorry that she hung all her dreams on being a mother, and that she warns other women who are considering being mothers to just imagine, just visualize, and know in your heart that if you were a mother, you would be a great mother. You would be a phenomenal mother. And that imagination, that vision should be enough for you to understand and feel it. And it should be able to take the place of actually doing that. And I'm thinking to myself, are you so sick in the head, as one of my other co-hosts would say, that you really think that you can imagine yourself being a wonderful mother, and that is equal to going through everything that you need to go through as a parent, mother or father, to come out the other side and call yourself a parent? Do you really think that you're going to get the same, transformation from imagining it and knowing in your heart? How could you know in your heart if you haven't done it? Versus, having a child, raising a child is the most transformative experience a human being will ever have.
Yeah.
Right? So good or bad, you can't take it away from there. But this is how they're thinking. They want easy. They want, this girl wanted to be able to go out to dinner, Johnny on the spot. Now she can't. She has a 9-month-old. These adult kids, they live on easy. They live on victimhood, and they have no strings attached. and that's really how they want it. And and part of that is social conditioning. Absolutely. Part of it is the social media. They're influencing each other for sure, and they're making it all okay. And part of it is just technology. Everything's easy now. They have more resources at their fingertips, so it's like a perfect storm for them, right? So this estrangement thing comes out of a whole and a lot of a combination of things that has created a perfect storm. So, but there isn't, I can tell you, there isn't a day that doesn't go by where someone out of somewhere, tells me a story that they're estranged from a child. I'm not, ever since I've been doing this now, and I've raised my awareness on this every day. I'm meeting new people every day. And so like we're expanding now, like we're expanding. I think you said we're doing a fast. I'm just trying to keep up with it. I mean, honestly, we're expanding our reach. We're right now we're expanding our structure. We're having people just walk in and say, "How can I help?" We've had this in our family, so how could I help? This is meaningful to me. We're creating our own, social media, apps and things like that to fill these needs. We're on like a very fast trajectory because and it's not a forcing, it's a hang on for dear life, and let's just all move this together because this is just crazy.
I think again, guidance. Are you around enough? Some of these parents have to work a whole lot, and you heard the term. I never knew what the term latchkey kid was. Up until a few years ago. I never knew that. But, you got some people that are struggling to pay the bills but guidance, there's a lot of screwed up kids right now. I truly believe that this past generation or 10, 20 years has been disastrous for children because they are being influenced. Everybody's pretending that everything is so wonderful. It's not as easy as it looks. And so there's a lot of misguided kids, but that grow up into adults that are going to be just a handful. I mean, just wasteful, just useless.
Yeah, and I agree there. And you brought up a good point. A lot of people are struggling financially, right? So they're trying to make ends meet. But you have to understand in the pea brains of so many of these, and I'm going to say it that way because it's so crazy. That the influence of these adult kids have been taught that there's only a few qualifiers that meet the definition of a good parent, and providing for your child doesn't qualify. So if you go out there to support them, make sure they have the necessities and more. And make sure that the lights don't go off. That's not love. So just get that right, Peter. Okay, that's not love. Okay, that's money, and they don't want your money. They don't want your money now because they're living on their own. But sure as hell, they wanted your money then because they would have been starving and on the street. But that does not qualify. So you have to get that right because this is what they're thinking, and this is what they're saying. This is what they're sharing on social media. It's insane. All right. And that's why people are so crazy. And you're right. I mean, it's explosive. It is as I said, it is the most silent epidemic I've ever seen. And I've been a journalist. So it's just the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Do you think drugs and alcohol have a lot to do with a good handful of these separations and cutoffs from the parents?
There are some that, yeah, absolutely. There's definitely some. I can tell you some of the themes, some of the big themes, because there are themes, among the people in my group and whatnot. We talk about these themes all the time. One is, and this is a big one. It's so crazy. Is when the child is fine, has great relationship with the parents. There's nothing going on. They're close family. And then he meets or she meets someone and falls in love, gets married, and that someone, all of a sudden, that influence breaks the child, and not in a healthy way. It becomes a separation times 100, where now the new wife or new husband won't integrate, and in fact will tear the little child away from family and make it so chaotic, make it and twist it where that adult child will then like create a toxic narrative that, you know, like somehow they're then justifying because they're listening here, and then, you know, they leave the parents who literally are like, what just happened? You know,
is that not kind of what, do you feel like that was a little bit happened to you?
No, I think that no, because I don't think it was him. I think there were other things. When later on, when I found out some things that I hadn't known that had been going on, that I only learned later, I started like piecing together a lot of what happened. So I'm not going to blame him, but at all. Did
you ever discuss it with your daughter since then?
No, because the reality is right now, Peter, I cannot possibly trust her. So even if she was supposed to come back into my life, whatever she told me, whatever she said, whatever she would possibly try to explain away, what I could not trust her. I'm not ready to trust her. And because I'm not ready to trust her, I'm not ready to trust anything that she would say to me.
Right.
I need now time to heal. And you know what? I've never put myself behind my children. It is so, and that's probably one of the reasons why I was always so there for her, for all of my kids.
Yeah, it blows your mind.
Yeah, that's probably the reason why, you know, after she told me I couldn't come to the wedding, right? She came back literally 2 or 3 days later and asked me to help her with the paperwork and everything she needed to get married at the wedding, because I never, ever turned my back on her. She could not possibly fathom that I would say, you've got to be out of your mind.
Yeah, normally you won't. I mean, why would you if you can? I get a certain joy out of helping or feeding my, you know, even at her age now. I mean, because she's appreciative of it. You know, I haven't gone through that, but I always said, you know, losing a child has got to be one of the worst things a person could ever go through. But if you don't have them and they separate from your life, that's a close second. You know?
Yeah, and for me have to do that to her. It was just such a hard, so you have to imagine how hurt I was in that moment and thereafter, to do that, where I now have to choose myself and my own self-protection from whoever this other person was on the other side, because that's not who I raised, obviously. And I'd find out some things later on where, that was not who I raised either. And things I'd later find out, you know, after she went to college, that I would then find out what was some things that were going on in college that I didn't know about. And, you know, so, it's just insane.
That's my next biggest fear.
Yeah, right.
No, because they get freedom. They get to go do what they want. They start growing as people, and, you know, things that they won't tell you. But, you know, it's just honestly, a lot of that stuff is just normal growing up stuff, but it just sucks.
Yeah, no. So, it's very true. So that's one of the themes that goes on. Another is, you know, drugs and alcohol part of it. Yeah, absolutely. That's another theme. Another is just the entitlement theme. They feel so entitled. They feel entitled to everything because, you know, the reality is they didn't ask to come into this world, so you owe them. And if you continue to be a good parent and try to help and continue to be and try to help, if you don't keep helping, if you finally say, look, I can't help anymore. I don't even have enough for me anymore. And this isn't, some of these parents are in this situation too. When the minute you say stop, they're going to say bye. Or, are they? The other thing is the fact that you have to always be the one to apologize. That they never do anything wrong. They never say anything wrong. They're always right. You always have to be the one to apologize. And if you don't follow those rules, it's like it's almost like they have a switch that they just turn off. It's not like when we were back then, where we felt an obligation to our parents. We felt an obligation to our family in some way, whether or not we liked them, we hated them, they didn't listen to our feelings, whatever. We had an obligation. That's why one of the things I believe, it was when we became a nation who taught our kids that their feelings mattered over everything else. That was a huge mistake, because the reality is, as human beings, feelings are important, no doubt. All right. But there are also other things that are critical to keeping the structure of families and communities together. And sometimes you may not like to have to go down the road, in the snow, because your father or mother or sister or brother or what have you is caught in a snowbank, and it's 12 o'clock at night, and you were watching whatever news, and now you have to get up and I don't feel like doing that. It's not my response. You stood yourself in the snowbank. All right. But what? You were taught that no, you help your brother or your sister get up, get your parka on, go down there, pull them out. Okay. That's called obligation. That's called responsibility. That's called caring. That's called, helping your fellow man. Those are all principles. That's glue that keeps families together. It's glue. It's loyalty. It's this and that. Well, if you decide that your feelings are more important than theirs being stuck in the snowbank, all right, then you can go turn around and go to bed and you're fine. And you don't have an argument when they come through the door freezing or, you're tripping away at ice, because you did what was right for you, because you honored your feelings. Understand what I'm saying?
I think there's a certain portion of parenting that they created what they got. And then there's some that just developed through influence and things like that. There's all these multifacets of what, I never believed in brainwashing. I never, ever believed in brainwashing up until these past 5 to 8 years with the constant, stuff on TV just banging away at you, and seeing what we're dealing with now on a daily basis about the division and all these things. And I look, but prior last week, I was talking about having you on the show, and this is something I've taught my daughter even this. You get a puppy. If you let that puppy just stay in the house, the puppy starts crapping and peeing all over the place, starts eating your couch as it's growing. And if you just let that puppy do that, that's what you're going to have for an adult dog. Right. And it's the same thing with a child. If you just let the child, those beginning years, that's why I fought so hard to be a parent through my divorce, because I knew how important it was to try to give that little girl balance with a father and a mother. And God, for all the other crap that goes wrong in my life, that's the one thing that I think kind of went right. But then again, it's also, she's got a personality that's susceptible to common sense and figuring out what's right and what's wrong. You don't always get that though, but at least I tried.
Right.
Yeah,
no, and I think that's that's definitely admirable. I mean, I think that, and that brings to another point. I think that fatherless homes contribute to this mess that is fatherless homes that don't pick up the sword, and don't, whether or not in a unified or a divided way, so to speak, under divorce, still pick up the sword on behalf of their children. That's certainly part of it. Exes that are causing parent alienation, between themselves and having that trickle over on, that's another theme. You could go into join the Facebook group and see all the themes are like, and it's really heart-wrenching to see some of these stories. And what I love about the Facebook group is they really have become a community of support for each other, and really just very tight. It's which has been a wonderful thing to see, because they needed it. And we're growing every day. We're writing new members every day, and so it's heartening to see that. It's really been crazy. But now I'm at the center of it, and I'm just, I'm just going along for the ride. I'm steering it.
That's okay. I mean, somebody's got to do it. There's everything to me as I'm getting older is everything happens for a reason. But, there's a lot of unfortunate things. People lose people. I have my daughter, her best friend's father passed away when she was 14 or 15. And, I see the hurt in that girl's eyes. I see it, because that was love. You miss that person. And then for you to have 5 kids, my God, I mean, just raising one is a task and an expense that, and I was older. I had my daughter at 44 years old. I wasn't in my 20s thinking, but everything changed. My life changed. Divorce changed the way I make a living and everything like that. And so there's all these different scenarios and things that happen, but to have 5 kids like you and you held it together, it's like, I don't know, God was looking down at you, because it's not easy.
Oh, no, I completely, yes, I know he was. There were many, many times throughout the day that I live my faith all day long, and truly, and I know that he walked with me, and I also know that that's part of the problem too in our society, and causing this is the causing the estrangement, is that we've literally kicked him out of our society. And what I think has happened also, and I'm glad you brought this up. I truly believe that these kids are suffering with a hole in them. It's an invisible hole, and I think that because God isn't there, and this is just my personal belief. But I think because, they don't know God, they don't have a relationship with God. They don't even know how to begin the relationship with God. And society has done a really good job. And I say society, I think the evil in society has done a really good job of, making these kids believe that all what they've been told, and the things and just the whatever humanity can provide is the right thing to fill that hole. And I think they are all in a lot of pain because it's not filling it, and they cannot figure out how. So they're like shredding things along, they're like, and they're shredding the family because they cannot fill that hole. And what did C.S. Lewis say? It's one of I love his writings. Said if you have something, there's a hole that that isn't of this that you can't fill with things of this world, then you would think that maybe that hole needs to be filled from something that isn't of this world. And I think that's very true, and I think it's a big part of why. Look at all the foundation the foundation that we used to have. The family was a foundation. We had principles that were a foundation. Church was a foundation. Now, church, in many ways, have gone the way of a lot of these woke therapists. So there are a lot of the churches that are not helping anymore. In fact, we have one member in our group that lost her child went estranged to a cult. So she's dealing with that. And fascinating story. But I think that all the foundational, our roots have been like just pulled up, and we're sitting there as a we're just like sitting there on the ground with roots out, and we're wondering why is everything going to hell in a handbag, because your roots are nowhere. You don't know where to put your root. Roots can't get back into the ground, and I think that's a big problem. I think that's it's definitely something that I look at what President Trump is doing and Elon Musk is doing and whatnot, and the whole administration seems to be working very hard to correct and right the country, and that's great. We need that 100%. But if we don't get families back together, if we don't get if we don't right the situation and right families, it's only going to be a matter of time before we explode from a different angle. So it is all about the family, right? So it is all about people. We're a country of people. We're not just a country of numbers. We're not just a country of debt. We're a country of people, and the people need to fix this. People need to start pushing back on the brainwashing. They need to start refamiliarizing their children with God. They need to start, if they need to take them out of school to teach them principles, good principles where they become healthy, healthy and well, in a sense, children. Maybe that's the answer. Because I tell you what they're learning, and many people that have done very well for themselves are all pulling their kids out of school, and they're homeschooling because they don't want to socialize their kids with what's going on out there. And I understand that. I respect them for it. My child is in school, my 15-year-old, but he and I are very close, and we have a very solid structure in our family of a routine. And we also share we spend time talking, and we do, so that's all important stuff. We have to, it's key.
But see, that's because you got in from you're starting from the ground, the roots, if what you want to call it. If you don't get that in by the time they're a certain age, you're going to have a hell of a time trying to reel them back in, because it's going out to sea because of all the influence is more important than think about how much time you get with your child as they're getting older. You know what I mean? I'm looking at it. I mean, I don't see my daughter but once a week for maybe 40 minutes.
I know. The peer influences, I'm saying the social media, the peer influences, once they get into, in the middle school, they definitely see some of it. But once you get into high school, those peer influencers and then you've got, all the other stuff, all the, we know what's going on in the schools, right? No one is saying, anything different than, anyone else. You see it on the news every day. It's crazy out there. That all filters in. Some kids, even in some kids in the same family, some kids, they see it. They keep a wall up, but many kids, and as you said, society is very strained right now. Parents aren't there. Their situation, maybe they're the product of divorce, whatever. There's a lot of different reasons why, but it leaves kids in vulnerable positions, right? And so. And I mentioned that in the book, fathers have to guard the home, so to speak. There's a reason for that. That was in the Bible. There's a reason for that. They're not saying really guard them. They have to guard those children, because the thief will come in the night and steal them. And that's what's happening. We don't even know it. I'm gonna say another thing. There's always members of the group will sometimes bring up is it a political thing? And I know we're not going to pause, but I have to touch on this. Is it a liberal conservative thing? Is it? Well, here's what I say. I think it's evil masking itself to be a almost like a catalyst to a war between liberals and conservatives, because, and I think I would call it, I'm not going to call it liberal or conservative, I'm going to call it a woke thing. It's just pure evil, and using politics to create more of a divide and have people fighting over, is it this way or that way? No, it's just an evil, and that evil is hiding within politics, and because the outcome of that is that, yeah, conservative families are suffering with estrangement, absolutely, but liberal families are suffering with estrangement too, and it's not. It's not just one side or the other. It's not like, okay, all the Christian conservatives are having this happen. Got to look at what you're doing, guys, right? Or all the liberals are doing, and no, it's happening in both sides. So we have people in the group from both political sides, and of course independents and whatnot. But so it's not. It doesn't matter the victim. It doesn't matter what party the victim comes from. The victim is the victim. And and that's the problem. It's an evil, Peter. I really do think it's an evil.
It blows my mind to hear some of these people, because I see them because on Facebook, I gauge everything through Facebook. I started my show originally on Facebook. I have a good following on the official Peter G Show page and of Facebook. But the thing is, I see some of these people that go woke as hell and proud of it, and I'm going, to me, it's an ideology. It's not just a word. It's a whole way of thinking. And I'm going, how can you say that and be proud of it and take it and run with it and just saying woke is, I don't get it. I just don't get it.
I don't know. You know what? I think, if you're saying that woke, I think, they didn't make, woke is broke, right? I think they're broke. I think they're broken, these people. I don't, and they don't even know it. They don't know it.
Functioning, successful people that say it, sadly, here in California.
But there's got to be something. I don't even understand, like, what is that philosophy? Like, what does that even mean? What does that mean?
Either I don't understand the philosophy, or they don't understand it. One or the other. They're like, anybody can have their own preconceived notions on what, just like taking in a story, everybody perceives it as some other, it's not always the same way as you see it. But it just blows my mind because it doesn't make sense. I don't know. I grew up small family in Connecticut, and I got my ass beat, and because they cared. That was the way they took care of things, and I hated, and we yelled, and we were loud and things like that. But at the end of the day, I loved my parents, and I miss my parents.
Right.
And your neighbors kicked your ass because, it was just the way it was. It's like, everybody took care of everybody. But
and now you cannot touch another family.
We're in different times now. And like the family, like my next door neighbors, it was a big Italian family. And on Sundays, the whole, like the daughters and their kids, and we used to call it the gang. They came over. You could hear when they came over, it got so noisy because it was like 10, 11, 12 people that, came over. Those days are kind of fading away. But the times have changed. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have media. It's a whole different world. And what are you going to do about it? But try to keep instilling some groundwork but God, look what's happeing. It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is hard. I think, everything is regulated. So, everything is regulated all the way down to like, no longer drink alcohol. We used to have a lot more freedom. We didn't have rules where we had the important rules, like get home from dinner, for dinner at 6 o'clock, and you did it. But we didn't have the rules regulate, right? But I mean, these are rules of everything now, and they're rules to breathe, and they're following well. So yeah.
All right, look, we're running. I mean, we could do this for 3 hours easily, but because it's important stuff. But this book right here, if you wanted to round this book up, I mean, in your words, because I know how to round it up, I can just read, the prefixes and all that. But in your words, I mean, why you wrote this book and how it took you through and how you're ending up because of this book, what would you say, if that makes any sense?
Why I wrote it, out of a personal need, and really how to connect with other people and other parents, good parents, who ended up being estranged from their adult children for reasons that many of them don't even know, many of them can't even comprehend. I really think it's a book of community. It's really a book of community who are suffering in a silent epidemic of estrangement. That's what it is. That's what it is. So,
all right. Well, I mean, but so for people to find this book, I mean, do you feel that that you're getting something when after reading your book? I feel somebody's going to get some. What's the word I'm looking for? Something to like. You're not alone.
no, I mean that's the point of the book. That's, you know, if you look at the end, how it end up, that's the real point, is to realize that you are in a community. You're definitely not alone. And Peter, I have people who have read it. They're going on the fourth time. They continue to read it again, and they love it. They pick new things out in it every time, and for me to hear that, that's just phenomenal. So yeah, you were definitely gonna get a lot out of the book, and you know, it's inspiring a lot of people.
When you were going through it, before you wrote the book, before you got your faculties together to wrap your head around it, did you feel like you were alone?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's why I started reaching out on TikTok to see. I couldn't even fathom what had just happened to me. I was so shocked. So I didn't even know, like, should I do it? But then I finally just said, you know what? I got to see if there are other people out there like me. I just really have to see, you know. And I was shocked. I never expected the response. I never expected the response that I got. It's hard. It's so heartening now. It's really.
Isn't it crazy that we're relying on places like TikTok now to get truths, so to speak? You know, I mean, to get, because there's a lot of wacky stuff on TikTok too. I mean, there's you get everything. But if you're looking for something and you really start looking, you're going to get more information off of people that have been there, done that, or people who do better research than you. There's always somebody out there better than you doing something that can help build you to be better. If that makes sense.
Well, there's a lot of the legacy media. You can't rely on them. They have become propaganda machines, and so honest news is coming from the people, and certainly you have to use common sense when you're watching anything on TikTok, right? But it's TikTok, like every other social media app, is about community, or most of them are about community, and this is also about community. It's finding people within this community that, I'm not going to say small community. It's a big community. But and that's what it allowed me, you know, it provided me the means to be able to do it. And I'm really, really glad I did. I'm really glad I did. I get a lot of hate though.
One more thing before I let you go. Because earlier during the show, we were talking about the term brainwashed, and people who are just as adamant saying something that you just completely can't believe that they're talking about that. But you're saying, how do you get them out of being brainwashed? How do you get them out of being brainwashed when they're so strong in their beliefs that they're looking at you like you're crazy? This is what we're going through right now. I mean, I get called all kinds of names when I'm doing my current events shows through the week, because, you know, of people who just have a totally different, way of thinking and don't agree with. I'm not telling anybody how to think. I just bring things to their attention in case they don't know, because I do realize a lot of people just don't have a clue and they're being fed this. But what do you do about it?
Well, so here's a couple of things. One, I've had that happen where there's just been enough conversation and there's been enough response by parents who are making sense, that I've had adult kids who really were like, on that other side, you message me and say, you know what, now I get it. So that's one thing. I've seen that, just like people now speaking and talking about, hey, but wait, what about this? That's for them, for some kids who, were here, but they were still open-minded. For the rest of them who really just want to stay cemented, there's nothing you can do. You have to let them decide at some point whether or not they're going to become aware. A lot of them, they'll remain ignorant just to remain ignorant and arguing. They don't want to become aware. They just want to be ignorant and argue. There's a ton of people on TikTok doing that, and they don't even want to, but then when it comes to these, but then when it comes to these adult kids, specifically the kids of the parents in my group, it's, you can't force an adult kid to change their mind. You can only decide to go on with your life and I'll say it this way, let God orchestrate their steps to learn. And that's going to be time, and that's going to be their own life experience. And that some people will term it karma. They're gonna learn. It's amazing how life just shows up and teaches the lessons that people need. It's happened to me. It's happened to you. I'm sure it happens to everyone, and it's gonna happen to them. And whether or not they believe it. So you have to just let life, your time, God work their magic. And in the meantime, I was telling the group, if there's nothing you can do, then the only thing you should do is go on with your life, make your life worthwhile living. You can't live, because then you're just contributing to your own demise. Live your life, and you're not going to get a second crack at this. So they're living theirs. You live yours.
I know it just hurts though. I mean, I can't even imagine. I hate, and I'm very lucky. I don't get into very many arguments or things like that. But I mean, when you love something so much, you know what I mean? And you've raised that child from birth, and I mean, it was a life-changing event to me. Maybe because it's my only one. Maybe if you have 5, I've seen people you get a little less, a little more numb. You get a little more numb because every kid drives you differently.
Yeah, but you remember, I mean, for me, and I think that's probably right for a lot of people, when you're widowed so young, it takes a whole different turn, right? Your kids, become that much more, I'm not going to say more precious than any other child, but they become, important because they become your world in an essence,
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you I say that gingerly because that doesn't mean you have a right to become codependent with them. You're still a parent. But
it is. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do know what you're saying. And it's tough. I mean, it is tough because they're still alive, but you can't touch or see them or whatnot.
Well, all right. Well, listen, here we are. I want to thank you for coming on. Here's her book, ladies and gentlemen, Doormat Mom, No More. When good parents finally say enough to their ungrateful adult kids, right here. This book is available on Amazon. Is that where it's at? I'm correct, right? Okay.
Yes.
You can pick up a copy. It's a pretty easy read. Not easy. I mean, it's not over your head. It's very straightforward. I definitely had to put my reading glasses on because the print is small. It's like for old people, My daughter made fun of me. She's like, I go, there's a whole bunch of page here, but there's a big gap around the edges. I wish the book would, that's on me though. But it's a good read. It's a good read. So go pick it up. Anyway, I want to thank you again for another fluke because I wasn't expecting this. This happened pretty quickly, and I was lucky enough. I called you up. I said, "Can you make the show?" And you said, "Sure." And so here we are, and I thank you for it. As always, you're always welcome on the show. I love talking to you, and thank you for. I'm pretty sure I'm probably keeping you up late because you're on the East Coast.
Yeah,
but it's the gift that keeps on giving. This show will live on. And that's where we get the most. I think the most results I get out of my shows is after the live is over, months down the road. things start to snowball that I've forgotten about, and you just don't know who's going to pick this up and go, wow, I needed that, and which leads to you. So thank you, everybody. Laura Wellington right here. Let's get you over here, and you can say goodbye to everybody. But thank you. And again, we'll be in touch, and go buy her book. It's a good book. You can definitely relate to this. People who have kids, I know you got to know that this is relatable. So thank you. I appreciate it. All right. I'll see you later.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. All right. Here we go. So where am I? Get her book. This book, for those of you who are going through hell, I mean, it just gives you relatable stuff to go, wow, because I know how much it hurts. I have friends. I've seen it. I feel it for them. I feel all kinds of things. I mean, maybe I'm just getting soft in my old age, but I just care. It's just the way it is. That's why I get up every day and do this. I didn't have to do this. I could just do nothing. Nothing's good. But I feel a responsibility, and bringing people on like Laura to talk about things like this, well worth it, because we're sharing experiences. When my parents were aging and starting to get sick, I was 2,000 miles away from them, and trying to manage them, their health, being taken care of, because I couldn't leave. I was just starting with my child. It was hard. But if it wasn't for the help of other people pointing me in the right direction, hey, you can go to the Council on the Aging for social services, that they come and help, somebody comes over there and things like that. I owe it all to the people who pointed me and helped me. And this is what I do. And this is what we do, because, again, you can't know everything, especially when you're stumbling into new territories that you've never been into, things that you never thought you'd be into. Laura Wellington, her book. Get her book. It's on Amazon. Doormat Mom No More. It's a good book. All right, I want to thank everybody. Let's take a sip one more time. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Every week is something of worth that I try to bring to you. Whether you agree or not, it's another story, but at least if you listen, I'll give you credit for listening, because a lot of people just won't listen. You won't listen. You're stuck in your way, and it's like, no. And I get that. I've had my share of my own, the same thing. You believe in what you believe, but sometimes there's always room for learning. I mean, there's a lot of things I've learned over these past few years and more. Always learning, but I thank you for watching Life of Peter G, The Peter G Show, every Wednesday like clockwork, 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. I love you guys for watching and paying attention. Please share, subscribe, follow, whatever it takes. Let's keep spreading the word. This is how I get stronger, be able to deliver good stuff to you. And it makes it even better, because there's so many things I want to do that I'm still not financially. It's all about money to put this stuff together. It's not easy, but I am grateful. I'm grateful to be. We've gone the distance, and there's no stopping and no holding back. But either way, I thank you for paying attention. Just a reminder: next Monday coming up, 5 days from now, or whatever the heck it is, St. Patrick's Day. Be careful. There's a lot of partiers and things like that, but a lot of things that have to do with partying and drinking, DUIs. People get killed driving. Just be careful. Be responsible. Have a great time. But have your shit together to oops, I'm using harsh language. Have a great time, but just try to be responsible. That's all I can say, because things will happen that shouldn't happen, and that changes families' lives forever, just because you were trying to have a good time and made a mistake that could cost somebody their lives. So be careful, all right? Only reason I say that is because it's true. All these occasions, when it comes down to partying and drinking and this and that, it's all fun and dandy until somebody gets hurt or somebody gets killed. And I don't want to be the bummer, but again, I'm sure everybody in that's listening to me has somebody that knows that they can say, yeah, I got a friend that they lost their so-and-so because they got hit by a drunk driver, or, just things happen. I hate it, but I do remind, because I love, like, the last thing I want to do. My daughter, I do it every time there's a party weekend. It's like, open your eyes, watch out for other people driving. Okay, Dad. What else can they say? They're going to say no, but because things happen. Not everybody walks out their door and ends up coming home that night. All right. My name is Peter G. Again, thank you for watching. Share, subscribe, all the above. We'll see you here next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Piece of cake. Be kind. It's a tough life out there, tough world out there, but think before you speak. Sometimes don't just lash out at somebody. You don't know what they're going through. Take a breath before you speak. You don't have to take a bunch of crap from people, but you definitely don't have to take a bunch of, just be kind. You don't have to, you know what I'm saying. I'm starting to get tongue-tied. I love you guys. I truly do. See you next week, all right? Peace out.
Peter G Show.